Oh, you mentioned. What was that?
Yeah, there you go, right there.
Something like that. Warm my hands up. I haven't learned that triplet thing yet, man.
With Victor and them?
I'm gonna learn from my students though. That
yeah.
something like that's going on. I'm still leaning a little more toward the Larry Graham.
That's me too, man. God, man. Hey, do you remember? Oh, that's what's that? Robin Thicke, yeah. Lost Without You.
Yeah.
Hey, do you remember? This Must Be Heaven, man. The bass line for This Must Be Heaven.
I remember being in B.
Come on, that's one of my favorite songs that you did.
Yeah.
That's how you do it right there? Oh, okay.
Something like that. It was on the fretless.
Yeah, I was going to ask you to play that on the fretless, right? It sounded fretless. We do.
Yeah.
Good.
Something like that, yeah.
Good. Okay, good. Hey, ladies and gentlemen, we got Detroit bass player in the house. About to do an interview with him. His name, Lamont Johnson. I'm sure you go by a few other names. What other names you go by?
I was a EL at one time. Brainstorm called me Stroh. But, Lamont Johnson's fine.
Lamont Johnson, bass extraordinaire, unsung bass player, melodic approach since I heard him back in '77, '78. And the funny thing is, we got some bass players in the house with us. We got bass player Roy. Edwards. He said he called himself a wannabe.
Yeah.
We got Bill again. Bill Peterson, another bass player. And then we got James Williams, no relation. We probably from the same plantation. James, Bill, and Roy, these three are my students, and we here to, I'm a student myself, by the way. We here to learn something from the master, Lamont Johnson. Yes, the master, come on now. I got some questions I want to ask you, man, for these Detroit bass players. I always like to start with asking you stuff like, when did you first pick up the bass guitar? Now, if you want to throw some years in there, I'm good with that. If you just want to, you know, make it ambiguous, I'm good with that too. When did you start playing bass? How old were you?
About 15.
You started when you was 15 years old. You want to tell us when that was?
Oh yeah, early 60s.
Early 60s you started playing?
I'm sorry, early 70s, man. I'm making myself older than I am. Born in 55, brother.
So you started playing 15 years old?
Yeah.
And why? Why did you pick up the bass guitar?
Willie Weeks.
Willie Weeks with the...
With Donny Hathaway.
Oh, okay.
What was it? Everything is Everything?
Uh-huh.
Everybody was playing that song at that time.
Did you play any instruments before the bass, or was this your first one?
I played at. I still play at a lot of instruments.
Uh-huh.
And Sequence is my friend.
Okay, good, yeah.
Just slow it down, play whatever you want to play.
And then speed it back up?
Speed back up, you sound good.
See that's keeping it real. I think everybody do that sometimes.
But they don't tell you.
Right. So, started playing bass at 15, and Willie Weeks was the light bulb that made you say you want to play bass?
Prior to that, I will be honest, I tried playing guitar first.
Mm-hmm.
I never learned how to tune the guitar. I had all E's, and I literally would go out and do a couple cabarets, and this is how I did my gig. With my finger across, and I'd either pluck the first and the fourth string, or either the first and the sixth string, and I'm playing Wendy. You know, yeah, that's funny. Cause I think back on it, I was crazy. But I had these huge calluses on my fingers. It got strong, and hey, I worked.
It worked, yeah.
It worked perfect. And then I was always afraid of chords. I still don't dabble in them that much, but the guitar, tiny strings, bulky fingers, the bass was a perfect fit.
Mm-hmm. So you picked that bass up and you ran with it. Who taught you how to play? How did you learn how to play the bass?
Self-taught, man.
Self-taught?
Self-taught, yeah. And that's, I grew up in Hamtramck, so I call it Polish funk. So I wasn't around a bunch of people, you know, and to be influenced by anybody. So it helped me to be a little more unique. I always tell my students to be the best. The best way to be the best, the easiest way to be the best, is to be unique.
Mm-hmm.
You're the only one.
Right. Okay. So after picking that bass up and teaching yourself how to play, how did you know that you were gaining or getting better? How did you know that if you were playing in tone and stuff? What did you have an ear or?
I had a tuner, and I have a good ear. I've always had an ear. Actually, I think I have big ears.
Okay, good.
Even today, I have about 3 songs that I've written, but you can play a pop song on top of the chord charts. Slightly, if you pick up my most recent CD, you'll find a tune. Actually, I did it on Greg Mathis. He's a trumpet, and he's doing a song called "Both Sides Now." It's a song by Joni Mitchell. It's a classic by her.
Mm-hmm.
And if you could actually sing "Just My Imagination," over the chords. And so at one time I was thinking about doing, I don't know if they call it a round or something, where you can have two songs going on at the same time over the same chords. It puts a different flavor on that particular song.
Okay, what's the name of the CD?
Okay, it's Greg Mathis, When We Were.
When We Were, and
he also does an instrumental of This Must Be Heaven.
Oh, okay, and we can pick this up where?
Oh, CD Baby.
CD Baby? Okay. Another question was, you say Willie Weeks was the light bulb that had you going. When you started playing records, did you listen to records and pick up the bass lines, or did you start playing with anybody? How did you start socializing musically with other musicians?
Blues. There was, in my community, there was a lot of blues players. There was this harmonica player. His name was Eddie Sistronk. And this dude could really play. His favorite song was Scratch My Back. And do you remember that blues song by any chance? I don't know any of the blues artists that did any of these songs, but learning the blues progression was my introduction. He always wanted to come down and play with this little young guy down the street, you know. And we would just jam, man. We would just jam. My mother and father, they were party people, so we were the entertainment. And after that, young guys that played, I eventually learned that I had some neighbors that played guitar or whatever, you know, and things manifest from there. Didn't live far from Shane and Milwaukee, you know, where Mr. Kelly's and the Raven Lounge, and, you know, there was a string of clubs. And eventually I managed to get into one of those clubs and do a gig, and then from there people hear about you, and then it just went on from there. I was playing in one of those clubs, Drew's Lounge, when I found out that Brainstorm was looking for a bass player.
Really?
Yeah. Matter of fact, it was me and a keyboard player, Bob Ross, who, Robert Ross, we call him Bob Ross, keyboard player. He's now in San Francisco, but he was the original keyboard player in Brainstorm also, so they took us both in.
Okay.
Let's see here. Ross Glue. Do you remember the Ross Glue Company in school by any chance? Yeah.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
Well, it was his family that owned that company, so
oh, really?
he was somewhat well off. We used to tease him. We used to ask him, why you want to be a musician? You know, you ain't going to make no money. You know, it was in his blood. He said he wanted to make it on his own.
Okay, well, growing up and just getting started, any other bass players, did you listen to any other bass players that influenced you, and you listened to them play on radio or something, or on the album, and it's like, wow, I want to pick up those cats, or was you always heading your own direction?
Yeah, I was hard-headed. I was headed in my own direction. I'll admit it.
Well, it worked.
Yeah. But I'll tell you, when I was in Brainstorm, there was this little young guy who came in. He didn't even look like he belonged in the club. And he handed me Stanley Clarke's first album. And from then on, I looked at a bass really solely. I always seen the potential of a bass being a lead instrument, you know, but then he showed you how it could be done. Prior to that, I had been listening to Jocko, you know, with Joni Mitchell, and he did some other things with some other people. I kept up with him. I love the credits on the albums, on his albums, terribly. Yeah, I was listening to him when everybody else was still listening to Jocko. I was listening to Chuck Rainey when everybody was listening to Jameson. I listened to Larry Graham. I used to love Larry Graham because I used to love Sly and the Family Stone. That was when I thought I was a hippie. You know?
Chuck Rainey, was he playing with Steely Dan at the time?
He was with, I don't know if he was with Steely Dan at the time, but he used to play with Aretha.
Oh, okay.
Oh, man. Rocksteady and Until You Come Back to Me.
All those Chuck Rainey?
Stops. Man, that man is playing. That man is playing.
It's one of my favorites from Cleveland.
Is he?
Yeah.
I look at Chuck Rainey as the innovator of the Jameson style. I look at Louis Johnson as the innovator of
Larry Graham.
And then another space cadet is Anthony Jackson.
Yeah.
I love. He's always coming from left field with his lines. He's too theoretic for me though. I mean, but there's this one pop album. I never thought he could ever play pop, and that was when he played on Shaka Khan's Naughty album. That Naughty album, man, you got to pick it up. He's playing some stuff. And
that was back in what, 70 what?
Man, it may be 80. It may be early 80s.
You know what his innovative song to me was, Mr. Jackson, was the OJ's. Yeah,
really?
Because I never knew that was a bass guitar playing doo-doo, 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 doo, and then come to find out it was a 6-string bass guitar. He's the innovator of the 6-string.
He calls it a contrabass.
Contrabass.
Right.
Yeah. I never knew that. That was one of the innovative things he did. But so you naming some of the cats that I love. Are these some of your favorites back in the day? Jocko, Stanley.
Those are the people. Well, I don't reach back for Stanley very much. I finally got wise to Stanley. Stanley's a lot of speed.
Yeah.
And he's got a lot of musical knowledge. But as a bassist, he's another guy who just has his niche. You know, and he's just got a lot of speed. He repeats himself a lot.
Right.
He solo. School Days, for one. I used to think that was just the epitome of the greatest bass solo until I finally decided to really listen to it. And he's playing. I ain't gonna try to emulate his speed, but he's playing a riff, man, and he plays it for almost 1/3 of the solo, you know. And so he goes, you know, and then I love when he goes, you know, that little. It sounds like an elephant,
right?
You know, but no, it's a place for him too. I mean,
he's one of the best.
He's an innovator for sure. His writing is great. His orchestrating is great. Ain't too many people who can touch him on upright. Oh
man, have you seen him thump on the upright?
Yes.
I've seen him thump on the upright. I was like, this can't be real, you know.
He's a good person too.
So who else? We still trying to go chronologically. We still back in the 70s and stuff. Anybody else back those? What I would have to now say, when you joined Brainstorm and you guys was blowing up with that #1 hit here in Detroit. I know it's #1 here in Detroit. I don't know what it did in the nation, but I know that I saw you guys on Soul Train and stuff, and you guys were playing all over the world.
My game.
Yeah, that disco. Yeah. But check it out. So who? Any contemporary favorites during that time? You know, like one of my, I guess during that time, those funk boys started coming out. Like the guy who did Glide. I forget his name.
I love all that 70s stuff.
Yeah, all of them boys was talking about. Who was your contemporary?
I never did learn any of that stuff, man.
Because we had to learn from you. That's why.
Well, you can say that. Those dudes were killing it. Now there is one individual that reaches out, shouts out at me every now and then, and he's gonna kill me because I can't remember his name right now.
Who he play with?
He's gonna get me. I'm gonna have to call you, baby.
Okay, so let's move
Play
up
with pleasure. Nate Phillips.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
I remember that group.
Yes. Little does he know, or little did he know, he was listening to me and I was listening to him. And I came up with a style. Everybody deadens their strings with the palm. I don't know if Marcus Miller started it or whoever, but I have my own way of doing it. Remember back in the day when I was playing the guitar, the Wes Montgomery thing? Well, it's no problem for me to do this.
Okay. Wow.
So what I'm doing is I'm slaving this finger again. Here I am, 56 years old, and I'm still doing this.
Right.
You know, but I'm deadening with these 3 strings.
Right. Okay. See, I just learned something.
Oh. Michael Henderson later on came into my world.
Oh yeah, okay. Another Detroit bass player.
My man, he reaches back all the time.
Mm-hmm.
You know, instead of reaching for the top octave, he's going back for the lower octave. You need to listen to him. There's one song that will just totally amaze you if you're into dissecting.
Mm-hmm.
And that song is called Gingy. It's spelled with a D, D-I-N-D-I. Gene Carnes singing. He's playing bass, and it's on a Norman Connor's album, Saturday Night Special. And I think Valentine Love is on that album. But anyway, he is playing some lines as of this day. I don't feel it to play, but I feel it to listen.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you know, that's too simple. When you hear the chord progressions and you listen to how he just what notes he chooses to play, it's not an ordinary thing to me.
Okay, we're gonna go back and analyze that. You know, that's what us Detroit bass players do, I'm sure, as we take these songs and listen to them, no matter what the genre is or anything, we just take them and listen to it. Okay, so now you playing with Brainstorm, you guys are touring the world and stuff. How is that? Is this your first time touring? Is this your first time exposed as a, did you consider yourself at this time a professional musician, or, you know?
I consider myself a professional the moment I started making money.
Uh-huh.
You see? But, and it was one of my biggest dreams, well, I had two, and that was to be one of the best in the city. I never asked for anything more than that.
Mm-hmm.
When I listened to Willie Weeks, I would just stare at that album cover. You know, the album cover.
Is he a Detroit bass player too?
I really don't even know much about him. I know he played with Bowie for a while.
Okay.
I think he played on the song Fame, if I'm not mistaken. I'm not sure, don't quote me. But he did play with Bowie. But, yeah, they had a picture of them. I think it was the Bottom Line or the Bittersweet in New York. And I played the club. I got a chance to stand on that stage.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the other one I mentioned, Sly, earlier. They're on Riot's Going On. I think that album is Open Up, Riot. Anyway, you turn it around and there's Sly and the Family Stone, and you can see the audience. It's a back shot.
Right.
I always wanted to play on the stage like that. Well, I got a chance to do that with Brainstorm too. And so it was like, Chuck Rainey, he was always someone that I really, when it came down to commercial music and pop music or R&B, I mean...
He did a lot of work, didn't he?
He came out and heard my second album. I did 2 albums after I left Brainstorm for CBS. And he came out and heard the second one. And I didn't get a chance to meet him. But Jerry Peters, who was my producer, he said he came in, he said everything was right. You know, and you know, he used to be a teacher on Downbeat magazines. You used to be able to get his lesson I don't know how often that magazine came out, but every edition he had a lesson for bass players.
Dig. Well, you know, that's one thing I still haven't done yet, was what I always wanted to do was like tour to where I was sick of it. You know what I'm saying? I never had an opportunity to tour, hit the bus, and all that kind of stuff. I've done the tour in 2009 where I did a couple of hotels and I drive home the rest of the tour. And did some cross-country stuff, but I ain't never did a real tour where you go overseas and you go to strange new countries. And
I've never gone overseas.
Y'all didn't get to go to...
I've been wanting to go overseas. I'll probably be a roadie for somebody. No, we went to Quebec. We went to Quebec, and that was fun. That was a lot of fun. And just recently, just a couple years ago, I went to Cabo San Lucas with Jimmy McKee. You know, that was fun. And you know, but that's about as far as I've gotten. I've done the majority of the states. You know.
Right.
I did a little southern thing with the Dramatics. And for the life of me, I've been trying to come up with the chronological information on that. I can't remember what year it was, if it was before Brainstorm or after I want to say it was before Brainstorm. You could probably help me. It was when Ouija left the group. You don't know?
Nope. Only person I know is Greg Finley, who is the brother of one of the Dramatics,
okay.
who sung with Five Special.
Okay. You remember Ron Banks, obviously.
Yeah.
We just lost him not long ago. Well, they split up. There were two Dramatics. Ron took one, Ouija took the other one. Well, Tony T Money, he went on with Ouija, Tony Green, and they took me on. I went on with Ron Banks. L.J. Reynolds took Ouija's place, and boy, that was some funny stuff. I used to joke with him all the time, tell him how he looked like a man with Tourette's. You know, I mean, because you know they do a lot of steps and everything, and he's a very passionate singer, man. And he'd be over in the corner, and he's doing his steps and shouting out and everything. And if you didn't know he was a singer, you'd think there was something wrong with him, you know. And but he went out there. We were in South Carolina or North Carolina, I can't remember which. But he went out there and they tore it up. I mean, of course they were the headliners, but he was a new guy in town, man who delivered. He's been there ever since. Found out later he was a bass player too.
Oh yeah? Wow, I didn't know that. Let's move up a little bit. Well, you just mentioned some posthumous people. One thing that I liked was, I was just watching it the other day, you guys on Soul Train and stuff. What was that like, man, hanging out with Don Cornelius, doing a couple of songs, and him coming up to interview you with that deep voice? We just lost him not too long ago. It was like working out there on Soul Train. That's, you know, that was the show.
I mean, but I was in a 9-piece band. I was always in the back. But I was very determined to be heard, you know, and I've always liked that. I'm actually shy,
oh, yeah?
you know. When I recorded my 2 albums, I'll let everybody know that I didn't know whether or not I wanted to hit or not.
Right.
Because the idea of having to walk from one side to the other stage to the other side of the stage and handle, I wanted to be successful, so it had to be a whole lot of people out there, you know, and that means that I would have had to entertain all these people. And so for a long time I had to figure out how I was going to display myself if I had been a success with that particular project. And I would have put a band together. I always liked cool in the game. I always thought my man out front was cool. For a long time I used to think that he was cool. And then there was Teddy Pendergrass. Harold Melvin. A lot of people thought Teddy Pendergrass was Harold Melvin. You know, well, see, that's the way I would have sold myself. Somebody out there would have went on out because I ain't worried about all that.
Right.
Just let me play, you know, and make the money. You know, no, songwriting has always been what I've always really wanted to do when it came down to the business, because that's where the money's at.
Right, and owning the publishing to that stuff, right?
Everybody loves the limelight. I don't care about the limelight. I'll write all your songs and you can go out there and sell them. You know, I like producing. I don't know how I jumped off into that. You didn't ask me about that.
Go ahead,
but
please.
I like the finished product. I like editing. I love editing.
Okay, well, so moving up, since we are moving up. What are some of the other stuff you did after, because, look, this is what happened to me. After I left Detroit back in the 80s and stuff, I got into my own little world. I even stopped playing the bass for a little while. What kind of stuff did you start doing, man, back in the, what were you doing? You say you producing, name some of the people you produced, wrote songs for, some of the people that you played with, worked with.
Well,
through the years.
Well, through the years, I'm going to just pick them out randomly. Let's see here. I wrote the title cut for Eddie Kendricks. I believe it was his last album, Something More. Michael Henderson, he did one of my songs, Yours Truly, Discreetly. It appears on the In the Nighttime album. I wrote a song that appeared on Night Flight's album. Night Flight is a group that I joined between Brainstorm and the release of my album. They wanted me to be a permanent member, but I couldn't. I was already signed to Taboo. But I got a chance to record an album on it. And the people that I recorded with were on that album. We're talking Brecker Brothers, we're talking about Hamish Stewart, Steve Ferrone on drums, the late Phyllis Hyman. She was a wonderful lady, tall lady, beautiful. I mentioned David Sanborn. He was on the date also. We had a great time hanging out. That's where I met Hiram Bullock while we were hanging out in New York. We recorded in New York, Chicago, and Hartford. New York, Chicago, and Miami. I'm sorry. We practiced in Hartford, Connecticut.
Okay.
Came in.
I know it's got to be some more.
Writing. Didn't write. I was a guest artist on the Chapter 8 album, their very first one with Anita Baker. Recently, local people, we're talking Dal Boyer, who is pretty popular around town in casinos and all. She has a CD out now that's been doing pretty decent. Greg Mathis, you know, nothing earth-shattering, you know. I'm still waiting on that gold record, you know. But Brainstorm stuff, obviously. I wrote, make sure I get this right. We had 8 songs, I believe, on that album, and I had something to do with 6 of them. I wrote the title cut, Storming.
Right, that's one of my favorite ones. That bass line was killer, man, I'm telling you. That bass line on Storming.
Yeah, I gotta get that again. I haven't thought about playing that in a long time, man.
Right. Yeah, y'all need to go back and listen to some of this stuff that this man Lamont Johnson, the Detroit bass player, is playing. Can I ask you some more questions, man? All right, good. What you've been lately here? You say you've been doing some local stuff. Ain't hitting the country like you used to, right? Is that by choice, or is it the way the industry is going? What's happening with that? How come?
I'm a family man.
You want to stay home with the family?
That's one of my dreams.
Okay.
I'm living it. I've been married for 24 years.
Okay, good. So what you doing now then?
Well, I'm just doing a bunch of writing, and I just started teaching again, and the response is amazing. I mean.
Well, I don't know if I want you to talk about. I don't know if I want you to talk about teaching right now, man. I got 3 of my students over here. They might switch camps or something like that, man.
No, I wouldn't do that to you.
No, I'm just playing. But but let's talk about it though. When did you start teaching again? You know, that's what I do. I teach bass guitar. I've been teaching since 2007. For me, it's almost like. My motto is each one teach one. All of this stuff I do, and there's a lot of students that want to learn and they don't have access to it. I make myself available, you know. Why teaching, man? What you getting that for?
I'm looking for someone who can take it and run with it.
You looking for that virtual or the what you call them, the prodigy?
Prodigy.
Yeah, you looking for one of those too? Me too.
Well, I feel pretty confident. I feel pretty good about some of the people that I've taught in the past. Giovanni Collier, he's worked. I haven't followed these fellas. Their careers really heavy, but there are some things that I know about. Giovanni Collier, he was with Gladys Knight for quite some time.
One of your students?
Yes.
Keep going.
Then just recently he did a tour with Sade not long ago when she made her resurgence. And then Hornsby. Bruce Hornsby?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, he's been with him for a long time. I don't know if he's still with him or not. You can look him up. He's accomplished quite a bit.
Some of the cats that you taught, you mentioned this guy. Did Al Turner come through you?
Al Turner, yes.
Who else?
Now,
Small, large.
Mind you, these guys were able to play before they came to me.
Right.
But I wanna believe that I broadened their horizons.
I'm sure you did.
Took them further to where they wanted to be. And within the last month, I started teaching again within the last month. I've been getting these comments and everything. I want to say thank you very much to all of you. I mean, that's what it's all about to me. And at that time, I was charging $10, and it wasn't the money. It's about what I'm getting right now from you.
Right. Well,
Dion Estes, he was not a formal student of mine, but he had to learn something in order to take my place in Brainstorm.
right.
And if you ask me from an instructor's opinion, vibrato changed his world. Because I was on the freeway. I'll never forget after he had left Brainstorm, and I heard "Wake Me Up Before You Go Go" by Wham. And right now I haven't taken the time to dissect it, but when I heard him play "Zoot Doo 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 Doo," you know, I said, "That's Dion." I know, and it's always cool. I always tell people, or my students, try to establish your own style, make your own niche, because one thing that's really important is if a person hears you playing, if they can recognize you by your style, you've accomplished a lot. But anyway, he was able to express himself to the point to where I recognized him.
Okay. Well,
another individual, informally, Byron Miller. Byron, how you doing, brother, man?
One of my favorites.
Mr. Dookie Stick.
Right. Reach for it.
That might be him on the phone now saying, "Don't you tell this story." Well, I'll finish the story about Byron. I don't want him to think that I punked out. No, Byron, he came and seen us at the hotel when we did Soul Train. And he and I, we spent almost an hour in my room, my hotel room. And me wanting to show him all the things that I know, I played all of my riffs, man. I played all my riffs and let him record it. And shortly after, Dookie Stick came out. And listen to Dookie Stick, listen to me, make your own decision. And so I put him down as someone I influenced or someone I inspired. I didn't say I taught him.
Okay.
But, so next time you see him, if you see him, ask him.
Well, I actually tried to reach out to him. I hadn't got a reply back yet, so so hopefully there's another Detroit bass player.
He's still my boy. My man plays.
He can come and do an interview too.
He and I, we play a lot alike, I believe, when it comes down to the blues solo.
Okay. So you done named a few of them, and you're still teaching. Or you got back into teaching?
I gotta give Ralph some props now.
Ralphie Armstrong?
Well, my boy. And I want to say thank you to him.
He taught you?
No, he didn't. Matter of fact, he was the first bass player I seen him play Popeye, though. He played the hell out of it.
That used to be a required exercise for us bass players back in the 70s.
Was it?
Yeah.
Well, see, I wasn't taking lessons, so I got a chance to skip that one. But I seen him playing at the Shell down at Belle Isle, and it was like, wow, he played it fast, too, But, no, seriously, he recommended me to take his place for Zappa.
Frank Zappa.
Frank Zappa.
Oh, man.
Okay, now that solo that you see on the internet, that's a place called, well, at the time it was Second Chance in Ann Arbor. And we were playing Brainstorm. We were playing Second Chance. We had just recorded our album, and they were giving us a welcome back home party. And a friend of mine, Huey Hitchcock's friend, Rico, he was a drummer. Anyway, he came running over to me, "Stro, you never know who's here." He said, "And you'll never know who he's here for to see." And it was Zappa. Zappa came to the club to hear me. Ralph had told him about me. And so I went on over, and there he is. He used to talk. He said, "I will teach." I won't skip where he says he introduced himself. He didn't have to. And he says, "I would like you to come out to L.A. and play with me. Ralph told me all about you, and I like what you're doing." And I said, "I don't read." I know he does. He did a lot of, and he said he'd teach me how to read. And if I didn't like what was going on, he'd just give me a plane ticket back. Well, we had already signed, with Taboo Records. We had already recorded the album, and we're just waiting for it to release so that we can do something with it. And so I had to turn him down. But that was a great opportunity. I often wonder if I would have been funny enough for him, though, because you've got to be a comedian. When his type of show, if you're familiar with his format. Another opportunity that Ralph turned on to me that I took upon, it was a Night Flight group, and I ended up recording that album, and I want to say thanks again, but I got a chance to work with those fine people, and actually Howard Johnson was in that band. So Fine, Howard Johnson, So Fine. I've been talking to them within the last 30, 60 days about possibly going out on the road, and guess where? Possibly Japan. I might get to Japan
this year, overseas, huh?
you know. So we'll see what happens with that.
But
another individual, Kern, he's now with Lady Gaga.
That's another guy on your tutelage
that studied with me back in the day. But it wasn't a long stint. It was a summer, and we probably had a couple little sessions during that time. It was a summer program.
Okay, so now you currently teaching. You teaching at a studio. You teaching at the crib.
At my apartment.
Do you go out to the students too?
I haven't started, but if they keep coming the way they're coming, I'll probably end up doing house calls.
Okay. What can they learn from Lamont Johnson? What's your teaching style? What do you teach?
Well, first of all, it's not a one-size-fits-all. It's basically for the individual. You can basically dictate your lesson if you want to, because no one really knows what you need more than you. Unless you're new, and I usually take on intermediate students, so they're somewhat are established within their own thinking. Back in the 80s, there was a time I was teaching at least 40 to 60% of the bass players that were out there. During that time, there was a lot of top 40 bands, and I had some guys that would just come to me and they say, "This is our song set. I am so bored. I don't want to quit this band, but I'm getting tired of this." And I said, well, pick some songs, and I'll shed a light on how to embellish some of these things. And I liked it because I had a student then that was definitely going to practice because he was playing those songs every night. We were working 5 and 6 nights a week, 4 and 5 sets a night. And that, by the way, that's what I did after after my album, after my stint with CBS. Instead of hanging around trying to be one of the cats, making $50 in the jazz clubs, I chose to go out there and play top 40. And I was playing pop music, and what I would do is I would treat every song as if I did the session. And it got to the point to where I would try to make it through the night without making a mistake that was obvious enough to make me have to do another take. You know, that was the stipulation. I had one night that I came close, you know, but that was fun within itself, you know, because you're playing the same songs over and over and over, you know. But yeah, as far as getting back to lessons, I have my own finger exercises that I offer, and they're not just scales. I don't dwell a lot on scales. I think I come up with things that are maybe in blues changes, because then we got a multiple approach. You're learning blues, and you're learning a melody, actually. Then that solo that's on the internet, I call that a library of licks. Everybody learns that. I call that Stanley's Open Strings. Okay. And then you got your lead lines. Okay, but they won't start out like that.
Yeah, I was about to say, I can't do that, man.
And see, I got a lazy baby finger when it comes up here, but then somebody else.
What you say? You got a lazy what?
a lazy pinky.
Yeah, there. Woo. Lazy pinky.
Yeah.
Lazy pinky. Lazy pinky.
Well, that's from teaching yourself. Okay, now I do work it in other areas, but when it comes down to soloing and sing lead lines, I'm gonna tell you, man, when you try to play and incorporate this thing, I mean, unless you are really in tune, and you're trained, it will take away from your funk, your expression.
I know. He tell me that all the time.
Okay, I mean, you become stiff. I love the way Petitucci plays, excuse me, but he's very scale oriented.
Right.
And when he plays his melodies, I can tell he's using all his fingers, and he doesn't slide or vibrato when he should be pulling.
Right, I know exactly what you said. I'll never be able to get these cats to use their baby finger again.
Marcus Miller. He is the man.
Yep.
Now, from an instructor standpoint, he is the, how can I say it? He offers the most out of all the bass players right there that I'm familiar with right now. He's got so much dimension. He's the full bass player. Now, there's guys who can pop better. There's guys who can do the fingering and all of that.
Tapping stuff.
You know, yeah, but he can do that, and he can do enough of it to say, that's in my arsenal, that's in my pocket. I'll pull it out when I need it. Do all the things he does. He's commercial. He can sing, and I love his cool. My man Miles taught him well.
Right.
Yeah, but yeah, and then he has his own tone. And
he's unmistakable.
You know, so he's covering all the angles. Victor, he's a dazzler. Yeah, he's the new Jocko when it comes down to dazzling and then being innovative. But my preference would be Jocko still, as of this day, because his melodic, that man, he'd get inside the chords, inside the melody, and still has a presence, and he made some of the plainest music pretty. I mean, his tone too, that had a lot to do with it too, you know, but just the way he looked at melodies, the way he heard melodies, you know. I don't know if you listen to very much of Joni Mitchell.
No.
In the past, you should. I have a DVD with him playing with her, and Lyle Mays on keyboards, keyboardist for Pat Metheny. Those dudes, man, they're sounding great. Eli Ellis, the percussionist for Jocko, he's playing drums on this thing. But anyway, getting back to the lessons. Your fretboard, I have these drills. You should know all your notes, you know.
All of them?
Man, what's up here is up here. This is the danger point here. You should know where they are, you know. And then double stops. Back in the day, I used to do a lot of sessions. And all they would do would give you these little chord charts. And there was no notation. And by the way, I don't read notation. And reason why they would hire me is because I had all these little tricks that I had learned from Chuck Rainey. Came up with things that because a lot of people would just play them, you know, well, about, and then if you have an open string to go with that, I can do that in lots of keys now. I've learned how to do it. It's a little trick when you're dealing with outside of open strings. But a lot of times you get that ability, that opportunity when you're playing ballads, and so the tempo's slower and you got time. Little tasty changes.
Different styles, different genres, styles, or does it all apply?
You can use all of that in rock. Seventh chords, dominant seventh chords. When I was coming up, everybody did this. You know, that was just the coolest thing to do. Or either they were going, you know, that thing there. Well, a lot of people like learning those things because they can toss in those little ad-libs when they're just droning on a note. Well, I teach you where it's at on all the keys. I teach you where the chords are on all the keys. And I got this little trick with the sevens that's just kind of crazy. I'm still trying to figure it out. The reason why I'm having a little problems because I ain't took the time to learn the theory behind it. But the dominant seven.
Well, I teach theory now if you want to listen. Yeah.
Interesting.
Seriously.
I'm thinking about doing an instructional video, and I was thinking about finding myself a professor who can explain I'll show you how to do it. I'll slow it down, and then I'll say, now the professor's going to explain to you what he did, what I did on paper.
What else you got going on? What you got coming up for us?
Well, like I said, I'm in the process of putting together little links and things that I think that would be helpful for an instructional video. And it actually crossed my mind about a week ago, being that you got this big pool of bass players and Detroit bass players page, to pull from that group and possibly put together a CD and let everybody do a part. And
man, that would be beautiful.
And I would even, post this. Don't edit this. This is my idea. Now, you can do it. Somebody else can run with it, but at least I mentioned it first.
Right. And then what's that again?
Huh?
What is this great idea? I love it already.
Well, I haven't come up with any ideas when I would do it, but it's an idea that I thought would be kind of cool, and I would even go as far as introducing the individual. I mean, even if it was in a way of, tell us what you think about that, that James Brown thing, hit me, hit me such and such, his name, whatever it can be. You can actually announce a person as they take their solo,
Right.
I've got this song. Sort of like a Jeff Beck influence song, and it's got a rock and roll groove, and if everybody just played 4 bars, took a solo, and then the next, and then you just name off the individual coming up, and I could probably in one song knock out 24 bass players.
Right, yeah, that's a wonderful idea, man. I hope it comes to fruition.
Yeah. There's something else. A fellow of mine, he's into the fighting game. He does apparel for fighters. He has 2 fighters, Fortune 500, and then he's also a bass player too. He'll be coming along. He's past student of mine. He also has a guy, Silky. He just fought, and he got whipped, but he shouldn't have been in the ring. he had just come out of a cast 2 weeks ago, and it was too soon. His manager was hungry. But anyway, to make a long story short, he was thinking about a competition for bass players, and he wanted to handle it like a boxing card. Okay. Or either he's just kicking the idea around, or either like a pageant, beauty pageant, whatever it is, different different segments, like they have the little bathing suit, they got the talent category.
Oh, the tappers, the thumpers.
Right, the tappers, the thumpers, even a category, competition for electric and a competition for uprighters. And then you can join them both if you play them both. And he's touring around with something like that. He's got to figure out how much money he wants to give away along with a trophy.
Well, what else you might be working on?
The other thing was basically having 2 bass players in a ring, literally in a boxing ring, and you got your coach, and you actually have a few rounds, and you just toss your best stuff out. You answer the other guys.
Oh, okay.
And you just be there and be ready with your tricks.
Right, that sounds cool.
You can tap, you can pop, you can play, you can even have your upright there too, But the other guy has the response.
Female basses, what do you think about those? You got any out there that?
I love Esperanza. That girl. Now I'd like to see where she's at in 5 years.
Right.
I mean, she's beautiful. She plays an upright. There's a lot of bass players out there that play better than her, but her package.
Right, exactly.
Once again, we're talking, like I was speaking of Marcus. There's a lot of guys out there that play better than Marcus. But it depends on what you're looking at and if you want that package. You get older, you start appreciating the package, and you don't get dazzled by that one dimension.
Yeah, that lick, that super fast lick.
Yeah.
Any other ladies out there? One of mine is who's this lady? Tal Welkenfield or something. That's one of my favorites. She's the Australian girl. What instrument is this you playing right here? What kind of bass is this?
This is a Sterling, Music Man.
Music Man. Why Music Man?
Oh man, Music Man is the one that expresses what I feel.
That's your stuff?
Yeah. The bass that I had on that solo that's on the internet right now, the bass solo, I sold that bass, and it was one of the basses, actually it is the bass that I dreaded parting with. I don't usually grow attached to instruments, and so for a long time I looked for another bass that could give me the same sound. Didn't realize that it's all in the neck and the wood. This is ash wood, and that last bass was an ash wood bass. And so when I went to Guitar Center, I checked out all the ash wood basses opposed to maple and rosewood, and they're pretty consistent. An ash wood neck will give you that sting. It works. I'm a tone fanatic. I like what this sounds like. Is this what I get when I leave?
Yes, sir. They got a...
Okay, that's the end of the interview. And don't edit that. I'm sorry, I got witness. He said, yes, sir.
Yeah.
No, I got to get myself an amp. That's why I refuse to discuss my gear. Other than my little practice amp that I have, it's a little Fender, and it gives me everything I need in my apartment.
Right.
But I'll be coming to all of you asking you what I should buy if I should go on the road with Night Flight.
Or if you get fortunate like some of these cats, you get the endorsement deal. That's,
you know,
I'm still looking for an endorsement.
I still don't know how that works.
Me either. Man, this is 2012. You still only got 4 strings.
That's all I need, baby.
That's all you need to get the job done. You didn't, did you try the 5s? Did you try the 6s?
The 5 is confusing to me. I like the 5 in the studio when I'm doing a ballad. Okay, I'll reach down for that B every now and then.
Right.
But when it comes down to funk or just really totally expressing what I'm about,
they get in the way.
I just don't need
they actually in the way.
And I'll be honest with you, I used to tell my students way before 5 and 6 were popular, that if I had more than 4 strings, I wouldn't go for the low end. I understand the justification for having that B, especially with organ players, man. In church, I wouldn't have a 4-string in church competing with an organ player. But other than that, I'd make them a C and an F.
The high C
and deal with the top end. That'll expand my solo technique, you know. I could actually play some octaves like Wes Montgomery, you know, but I'd play it the right way, I guess. You know, but that's where I would go with it. And if we should ever get together on any kind of theory, I'll show you my concept with the 7 chords, the dominant 7 chords. That's based on if you had a 6-string bass and you tuned it with your 4s going all the way across with the C and the F.
Right.
You know, because they do a crazy thing, and you ain't even got to flip your fingers around.
Right.
You know.
Right. Okay. So like I said, I can keep you all day, man. But I'm gonna go ahead and let you get out of here. So you wanna play us out, man?
I'll play you out.
Ladies and gentlemen, Detroit bass player Lamont Johnson, the living legend, the unsung episode of Detroit Bass Players right here, right now.
Okay, this is work in progress. I call it funk on a graham cracker.
Okay.
It derives from the bass line from the song Hair, Graham Central Station.